It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Okay, do you feel like the talent you have here is good?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
What is your responsibility?
I'm just asking, do you think you've done enough to help Tom Brady?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
Yeah, trust me, Willie. When I came to Indianapolis, they everything threw stuff at me, yelled at me, and everything else. Then when I went for it on 4th and 1, and we got stopped. Ever since then, it's been, hey, Coach, good to see you. How's it going?
Thank you very much for being here, Coach. Let me ask you right away. You pretty much extinguished my Colts. How do you feel about that?
Well, it was only a 38-point win.
Sean Lee visited you as a kid in Cleveland, or did I miss that when you were talking about you?
Yeah.
What was that connection?
Where were you on snap face there when we were talking about that?
And what's up? Court is in session. If you don't like that, the King's Court, Ryan and Sacktown with you. Adam, what the heck is Pork Rind Wednesdays, my man? That is a brand new one to me. I do not know what Pork Rind Wednesdays is. Come on. It is I guess it's a hump day Wednesday. We could go hump day. How's everybody doing? Team USA wraps up South Sudan 103-86. Anyone watch the game? Did you catch any of the highlights? Did you catch any of the commentating? I want to get your thoughts on the Noah Eagle, Dwayne Wade commentary booth. I have my own thoughts on it. I listened to it today. It's different. And I don't know if it's different in a good way or a bad way, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The reason you heard Bill Belichick at the beginning of the show is because, believe it or not, Mr. Personality, Snapface, we're on to Kansas City. Yeah. You know how he makes those sounds? He is getting his own TV show now this football season. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. We're going to play some of Bill's greatest hits here in a minute. Also, Tennessee Titans got a little radio issue going on. Did you hear about one of their players blowing up on a radio host? That was super interesting. We've got some audio from it as well. I want to start here. I don't know if Jay is watching right now, because our buddy Jay, who calls in from time to time, he calls himself Jay Woj. He's our Woj guy. But anyways, Jay was really bent that Jaylen Brown was not included on the Olympic team, especially when Kawhi Leonard was sent home. Now, let me ask you this question. Where the hell through 2 games would Team USA be without Derek White? Did anybody have Derek White on their bingo card as being one of the most important players on Team USA? Granted, this dude wasn't even on the roster. He was added over Jaylen Brown. Now, if you ask me, Jaylen Brown or Derek White, who's a better basketball player? If we are having a brand new NBA draft and we are redrafting every team in the league, I would guess most GMs would take Jaylen Brown over Derek White. And I don't disagree with that whatsoever. However, when you're building a basketball team, and I know USA Basketball is not exactly the best example of how to build a basketball team, because when it's an Olympics year, they load up. They put the biggest stars that they have in the NBA that are willing to play all in one group, throw the ball out there in Olympic competition, and most times it results in gold. But if there's a knock on the way that Team USA is composed, they're not a real team in this sense. you got a bunch of stars. And one of the problems you've seen with Team USA, you don't have enough role players. And so then the chemistry, that becomes a big question. We've had the big debate this entire time about how the world prepares for the Olympics and how they take their programs seriously. 4 years. It's a 4-year program. In fact, it's decades of a program where you're looking at younger guys, you're bringing them up through the Olympic program with goals of having them ultimately play for your national team in the Olympics. USA doesn't run their program that way. Now, they did to a degree, and they still try to run a side part of the program with the select teams. By the way, Keegan Murray, he was part of the select team this summer, and it's a great experience. The name that you heard a lot of, Cooper Flagg, he's going to be headed to Duke. He is penned in as the number 1 pick in the 2025 NBA draft. You saw a bunch of highlights of him balling out at times against Team USA. But when the world composes their teams, again, they balance them. Just like with the Kings, you can't have 5 scorers on the court. You need a guy like Keon Ellis. You need a bench guy that's going to come off and embrace that role like Malik Monk. And so Derek White is 100% the obvious pick and was obviously the correct pick for Grant Hill and Team USA because he's that dude. He is the glue guy. He is the defensive stopper. He does whatever Steve Kerr wants him to do. He can knock down an open shot. Derek White, for lack of a better terms, is the Keon Ellis to Team USA. Keon Ellis was to the Sacramento Kings last year what Derek White currently is to Team USA. And credit to South Sudan. They hung in there. Boy, oh boy, I'm not sure how much of the game you caught, but they're fast. South Sudan, that is a quick team. Really fast. Credit to them and Luol Deng. Not sure if you've heard what he's done for this program, but he has financed a lot of this program all on his own. So much credit to him. And, look, they are the infancy stages of what they're doing. And the fact that they're in the Olympics, good for them. Now, the next story coming out of today, Joel Embiid did not play. Not a surprise. South Sudan, they were a small team. Got a couple of guys that have some length, but they play on the perimeter. And you could see that today as Team USA was guarding them anytime South Sudan got anywhere near the paint. It was either a kick out or getting your shot blocked. So Team USA rolls 103-86, but Derek White, again, and I know Kevin Durant dominated the heads in the first game against Serbia. Derek White right now is the MVP of Team USA, in my opinion, right now, because in those lulls, those little periods, he's the guy getting the steals. He's the guy pushing the pace. And Drew Holiday, he's really close, right behind Derek White. Drew Holiday, by the way, rolled his ankle a little bit today, so something to watch there. Team USA gets the big win. Adam, just trying to capitalize off the success of Chicken and Dumplings Tuesday. Yeah, that's a little bit different. That's kind of Jerry's thing. So I'll give it to you. Little man coming in the house from school. What's up, dude? All right, there we go. Little man checking in. Alberto, I don't like the new style of play in basketball. Just saw the USA game, and the guys are just scrambling to get behind the three-point line and shoot threes. Now, are you talking about Team USA or South Sudan? That's South Sudan's only chance, by the way. And they almost beat the Team USA in the Olympic exhibitions. But yeah, it's the three-point line. It's about a foot in, so that makes a little bit of a difference. And dare we say, Alberto, we've had this conversation so many times. That's basketball these days. Basketball is a three-point shooting contest. And maybe that is starting to change a little bit with the big men in the Western Conference. Jerry Reynolds and I think that gate is swinging a little bit back towards center. But time will tell. What's up? How do I say your name? Orar? There we go. It's dog version since there's no cats here in the Kings court. Hey, Ryan, what do you like better for the Kings? Either Wenyen Gabriel or Damian Jones? Probably Gabriel, just because he's big and the Kings need size. But Damian Jones, he was a nice little threat when we had him for a minute. By the way, Gabriel out there balling it up today. Adam hopping back in. John Morant was supposed to be on Team USA, but didn't get through TSA. Good one, Adam. Adam's got jokes. I'll give that to you. That is by the way, Luke Kennard has signed with the Grizzlies. You think you're going to have to watch out for the Grizzlies? I think so. They're going to be pretty damn good this season. They're going to have fresh legs as well. And Zach Edey, do you think he's going to work out? Do you think Zach Edey is going to pan out for this team? I think he is. I don't think he's going to be anything special, but I think he will start a number of games for the Grizzlies, and he's probably going to give some teams fits, maybe even the Kings. I mean, I know Zach's going to have to match up. Sabonis can run circles around Edey, but on the other end of the court, not sure what the Kings do there. Maybe a little bit of the zone defense. Let's see. Oh, we already got to that one. I thought I saw something about 3-on-3 basketball in here because that definitely has caught my eye. If you guys did not hear yesterday's show, we talked about it a little bit with Grant last night. This 3-on-3 basketball, it's bad for basketball. It's not bad in the sense that basketball, there's room for it. The Big Three, Ice Cube's league, all good. Not an issue with it. You also have the new league that's going to be starting up here in the next couple of years. It's going to be a women's league that's 3-on-3. It's going to be owned by a couple of the WNBA stars. There's room for it in that sense. But when you think about the Olympics, right, it's the best of the best in the world, literally the best of the best, doing things that a lot of us could not dream of. Think about it. Well, actually, I used to, believe it or not, did high jump in high school. That was interesting. But I could get my entire body over 6'2". That's pretty impressive because I'm a short dude. I was lucky to have springs before the hip replacements, not so much anymore. But the 100-yard dash, right, or the 100-meter dash, 200 meters. You've got the triathletes. You know, they jumped into the river today. We can talk about that as well. But some of these just very innate, specialized skills, to me, are really supposed to be celebrated in the Olympics because many of these sports that you see in the Olympics are not something that these athletes can monetize. You know, track and field does not have, and I know track and field's not the best example, but there's not a professional league for track and field. The Olympics is where it's at. Swimming, another good example of that. But there's many other sports within the Olympics that this is it. This is where the best of the best compete. Now, basketball, I have no problem with basketball and nations being included, like we saw Team USA today with South Sudan. But what I do have a problem with is when you basically have a glorified hoop it up tournament going on the biggest sports stage in the world. Yes, I just said hoop it up tournament. I'm surprised the 3-on-3 teams have not bought their Gatorade bottles so they can get free refills of any color Gatorade they want the entire time at the Olympics. Seriously, though, if you've watched the 3-on-3 basketball, it is not good. These are not players that have skill that is the top 1% of 1% in the world. And I don't want to take anything away from them, but it's so confusing. It's not explained, the rules. The second the ball goes in, the other team gets it back, then they got to clear it. Unless you've played basketball before, specifically at gyms, and, you know, maybe even a little bit of hoop it up. I used to do hoop it up. I don't know about anybody else. But unless you've done something like that, you don't understand the nuances and rules of that. But I've watched 2 days of it now, both men's and women's, and there's not a lot of strategy to it. In fact, I would argue there's almost no strategy to it. You might have one player that's kind of big, but not big, but you don't post up that much. The floor is all completely spread, and you have a bunch of people that are just hucking up threes and bricking and bricking and bricking, like Russell Westbrook style. And so to me, that brings down the sport of basketball. And I get gymmers out there playing for Team USA, but let basketball be basketball in the 5-on-5 sense. You don't need the 3-on-3. I think they got to get it out of the Olympics. I'm not feeling it. What do all you think? Have you gotten a chance to check it out? Jared Allen, yeah, we got that in the ticker. 91 million, 3-year extension. That's a max extension for him. BJ, what's up, my man? Let's see. Watched last night's show with Napes, and it was stellar. Appreciate it. Yeah, what you don't know, and by the way, Napes and I, we will be back tonight at 8 o'clock. So make sure you get back with us. We're going to do another open forum show, but those shows can go in many, many different directions. And, you know, there's probably, I'll be frank with you, there's probably some directions I would be a little more hesitant to go on my own for very obvious reasons. A microphone, you say one thing, one slip of the tongue, something that you might think in context is funny. I mean, the Olympics, that's what started this entire conversation last night. We'll recap it in a second. But one bad thing, your career's over. And I'm not saying I'm here on this big stage, but it doesn't take much to go viral. In fact, think about the story we have here in a second about one of the Tennessee Titans that called one of the live radio guys a certain term. We'll let YouTube play that for us. I'm not going to say it out, but yes, Grant and I got into a very honest conversation about the state of what's going on. And you don't have to agree with it. You can disagree with it. Certainly, you can turn it off. It's just there's some things that don't make a lot of sense. In fact, I'll just read it right now. If I still have the story up, there was an Olympic, let's see if I can get it right here. Oh, no, I just lost it. So basically, one of the commentators for Eurosport was announcing one of the swimming relays, and the Australian women blew them away, blew the relays away. There was still other teams in the water finishing, and he made a comment like, oh, the women are still finishing. You know, women, they take a ton of time to do their makeup and something else. So he has been removed from the broad, removed altogether. And so the question and the conversation that we started having is, why is it? And it was in bad taste. There was a comment. There was no room for it. He shouldn't have said it. Now, did he deserve to be pulled? That's debatable. But this is the same Olympics where you have things going on in the stands. You have certain symbols, certain hand gestures that are very offensive, not just to one group of people, to almost everyone happening. And nothing's going on. That's okay. You saw the opening ceremonies. I'll be honest, the opening ceremonies, I don't know that I'll watch another one. Again, I have no plans. At least I have no plans of sitting down my son and my wife to all watch the opening ceremonies together after what we saw in this last one. I don't. I was offended. And it wasn't even for some of the things that you would think I'd be offended for. But I remember the opening ceremonies as just this giant celebration, these groups of athletes representing their countries, carrying their flag into the stadium. You're learning about the big athletes, the small athletes, and exciting stuff. Muhammad Ali lighting the Olympic flame in Atlanta. That's the kind of crap I remember. Not the garbage that you saw in this opening ceremony. It's less about sport and more about other things. So if you want to kind of go down that road a little more, that's what BJ is saying. We were talking about that last night. Jay joined in for a few minutes. It was a good and decent conversation. Let's see, Adam, the open ceremonies was awesome. Yeah, whatever you think. BJ, Olympics is a joke of a scam, not about athletes or certainly best combination in the world. No, it's not. It is not. It's unwatchable at times. And there's a lot of things that can be debated about this Olympics. In fact, this whole Seine River issue. And by the way, the triathlon did go off today. The swimmers did end up swimming in the water. I said it yesterday here on the King's Court. 42, according to the EPA, 42% of our rivers are not considered at a swimmable or safe level to swim in. So we can't sit here and criticize France when that's going on halfway across of our country. But there's a lot of focus that is not on the beautiful things of sports, but rather on other things. We'll leave it at that. A lot of stuff going on in the world. We could do an entire show about that today. The Kings do need a little bit of defense this year. You would think that they have found something, or at least found a little bit of a system. Keon Ellis is not the system, but the one person I would point to is Keegan Murray. Keegan is undoubtedly, to me, the leader of that defense. He's proven his offensive game does not affect his defensive game. Meaning, if he's not involved offensively, he's still going to bring it on the other end of the court. And the really cool thing about that is it's contagious. It is absolutely contagious. But here's the other big thing about the Kings and their defense now. With Keon Ellis in the mold, and to me, I don't even want to start talking about Devin Carter and start projecting where we think Devin fits into things. Because as we sit right now on the 31st of July, I am telling you, this is my prediction, Devin Carter will not play this season. Yes, let that set in. I do not think Devin Carter will play a minute of basketball in the NBA this year. Here's why. If you need him to come back that late in the season, if the Kings need him that bad, the Kings are not going to be in a good spot in the Western Conference, number one. Now, the only way that could be, there could be some nuance to that if the Kings have injuries, which could happen. We have seen that happen, especially last year. But Devin's not being reevaluated until January. Reevaluated. So that's one of the misconceptions here. Oh, he'll be back in January. No, they're not even going to start looking at that shoulder again until January. So my guess is he does not play. This is going to be a redshirt year, and I don't necessarily think that is a bad thing. There's guys, Chet Holmgren, Joel Embiid. He had a redshirt year. There's plenty of examples where it works out. In fact, Nikola Topic, the number one pick, or the 12th pick, I believe, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, he's going to probably be redshirting this year. So the Kings defense is going to still be okay because you have guys that give the ability or free up other guys on the Kings to do what they do best defensively. Keon, great example, keep going back to him, but he frees up De'Aaron Fox to do a little bit more off the ball, to be able to jump passing lanes. And De'Aaron thrives in that situation. And by the way, if De'Aaron tips a ball out and he gets in front of it, goodbye. Nobody is catching him. Forget about it. Johnny, what's up, my man? Okay, Ryan, who do you like better for the Kings? Either JaVale McGee or Hassan Whiteside? I don't like either of them for the Kings, to be honest with you. JaVale kind of topped out last year. He did what he could, and that's catch the lobs. I mean, JaVale, that three-point shot, I could have done without that, even though it only happened one time. But credit to him for being a veteran. I think he had some presence in the locker room. I think he tried to, if any of you heard some of the interviews he did after the season, which were leading up to his celebrity softball game, which promotes clean drinking water, especially in his hometown or his home state of Michigan. He talked a lot about that dog mentality. I think he tried to instill that, or at least bring that to the team, but neither. I'm actually excited with what the Kings have right now. I know that there certainly could be upgrades, but I do like the natural progression that Alex Len has had over the last couple seasons with the Kings. His athleticism has improved greatly, in my opinion. No, he is not a top level guy off the bench to play center. He's not a perfect fit for what the Kings do, but for what you're paying him, for what he was able to do in terms of physicality, because he played fairly physical last year and he showed the ability to move the ball a little bit and continue to run with the team. So I'm going to say neither, Johnny, but we didn't really see enough of Hassan at the end of the day. I don't know. I just don't think that type of center is what the Kings really need. So we've seen enough of those centers come and go. This team, if they could just get a Lopez, somebody that stretches the floor, it would be such a huge upgrade. But I know they don't grow on trees, and I definitely know they come at a price. C-Dog, have you been checking out the NFL Top 100 list voted on by the players? You know, C-Dog, I'll be honest with you. I have only seen a couple of the names. I think I saw one of the guys in the 40s, and that was it. Any surprises on the list? Let me know. We can talk about it, or I will do a little bit of homework and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Adam, did Hassan flame out? Now, are you using flame because he went to the Heat, or Adam, you're full of jokes today, my man. I love it, dude. Keep bringing it. So I mentioned at the top, Bill Belichick is going to be getting his own show now. This is going to be interesting. And I don't know about you. I am a big Bill Belichick guy, especially in his press conferences. This guy is just too good. Here's our man, Bill Belichick.
Sorry to remind you.
Yeah.
But how?
And all the negative stuff in the Super Bowls we need to be aware of too.
How much do you look at that history and this week and say, you know, do
Look,
something?
we try to score in every game. I know that's probably hard to understand, but like we try to go out and score and keep the other team from scoring. That's our goal every game.
Oh, is that the goal, Bill? So when we break down football games now on your new show, yeah, they want to try to score, and the goal is to keep them from scoring the other team. So former New England Patriots coach Bill Belichick will be keeping busy during the 2024 season after adding another broadcasting job to his list. If you didn't hear, Underdog Fantasy announced today that Belichick will be hosting a weekly show in which he breaks down film and takes fans through his process as if he were coaching a team. Now, we've been joking around for a few minutes about Bill Belichick, but I would actually be interested in seeing that. I'm not sure if anybody saw the special that HBO had. I believe it was 2 seasons ago. But for those that don't know, Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, both very dry personalities, very different personalities. Some would say actually not very likable. Nick Saban does not come off to me as a guy that I want to play with. Now, Nick Saban and Bill, they're very good friends. In fact, they chopped it up all the time. The HBO special kind of went in deep into their relationship. Also, kind of gave a one-on-one interview sense, but between the two where they're just having a good conversation, and they were talking football. And those two are widely regarded as two of the brightest football minds in the history of the college and pro game. Now, Nick Saban, his success did not translate to the pros, but Bill's new show is going to be called Coach with Bill Belichick and Underdog production. It seems very similar to ESPN's show that they had. You remember Mamba Kobe? He was breaking down film for a minute. Now, that was straight up film. Like, you're just sitting there running the film back, running it forward, looking at what they're looking like. If that shows anything like what Bill's is going to be, I think it's worth your time. I would not have a problem watching that one. And who knows? Coach Belichick may give us a little funny here and there. So look for that. Bill, you got to think he's going to be back on the sideline within the next 2 years. And then Kyle Shanahan, he said he did offer Bill a job with the 49ers, which Bill turned down. So let's get back to the chat really quick. What's up, Bane? How you doing today, buddy? Sea-Dog first. Kings interested in Robert Williams III. What do you think the price would be, though? That is the question. I don't mind that. I would not mind that. He can spread the floor a little bit. Bane, what's up? Is Jay Crowder or Robert Covington still available? May space. Let's see. May space and give some toughness on D. Crowder, yes, is still available. Covington, I am not so sure. I'll have to go back and look. But the fact that both of them, especially Crowder, the fact that he's still available, it tells you something. Here's why I would be a little leery of Crowder, and I'm going to speak directly to him. It's the fact that in his last couple seasons that he's played when he hasn't been hurt, he's just hung behind the three-point line. And I think Mike Brown wants to get away from that a little bit. You know, the Kings to start off the season last year and even back to 22-23, they were putting up 45, 50, some games 60 3-pointers. Yes, 60 3-pointers. I think the perfect number for this team, and you saw it last year at the end of the season, and I know guys were hurt, it was between 35 and 40. I think Mike Brown, if you had him or if you got a snapshot of his whiteboard in his office about keys to the offense, I think it's between 30 and 43 pointers that the Kings should be taking every night. And that's right about where they lived the second half of the season. And guess what happened during the second half of the season? It really wasn't a half. It's really more like 25, 26 games after the All-Star break. But their net rating nearly tripled. So that tells you something right there. James hopping in on the conversation. What's up, my man? Yes, Debo's in his 30s, so he doesn't belong in the 30s. Oh, wait. Yes, Debo in the 30s. He doesn't belong in the 30s. More like the 90s. Interesting. See, it's a player poll. Remember the player, by the way, that the Athletic did for the NBA guys, and it was an anonymous one? Domantas Sabonis got votes for being the most overrated player in the NBA. That was surprising. That was really surprising to me. You guys are talking the list a little bit. Podcast gonna be filled with grunts and sports, or snorts and not cocaine. Yeah, he does a little Chewbacca sound. I think it's great. He'll go. Rrr. He has this little growl. But maybe his 26-year-old girlfriend, she's getting Bill out there. She's like, one job's not enough, William. Get your butt out there and get a second job. I want to be able to get my nails done every day, William. So, she's probably pushing him. Who knows? Maybe William will get a third job. You'll never know. The talent comes from South Sudan, Congo. Yes, it does, Alex. You're right. Did you watch them play today? They are fairly new to the world stage. And boy, oh boy, I go back to this. They were quick. They are quick. So that's why I started with Derek White. A lot of love for him and what he did today. Yes, Sudan has Wendy and Gabriel. Definitely. We've hit that already. Who else does Sudan have that fits the Kings? No one. Nobody. There is nobody on that team that would fit the Kings. They've got one guy that's a little bit longer. He's a lefty, can shoot it from beyond the three-point line. But there were not a ton of NBA players on that court. So I would not be looking at the South Sudan team looking to improve this Kings team. CT Dog, I think personally the Kings need another power forward. No more Jeremy Grant. Well, okay. Can we agree? Can we just set this Kyle Kuzma stuff aside? Are we done with the Kyle Kuzma conversation? I've been done with it ever since the Kings got DeMar DeRozan. That ended for me. Now, I'm not the GM of the Kings. Maybe he is still in play. If I'm looking at what you're saying, CT Dog, yes, I agree with you. Jay has talked about this. Jerry Reynolds has talked about this. I've talked about it at length. They need somebody that can play that 4-5 position. So if it's the power forward position, great. Look, Jerry and I talked about it yesterday. And like, yeah, they're going to be small. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. Yes, you're going to have trouble guarding some of the larger teams in the NBA. But on the other end, other teams are going to have trouble guarding you. And so that's that double-edged sword to where I go back to Mike Brown and what he's going to do this season with the offense. It can't be like last season. I think we can all agree the free flowing needs to stop. It's got to be more structured. And especially now that you have DeMar DeRozan, who thrives in structure. I know he stops the ball a little bit more, but guy is a mid-range assassin. He is calculated. He sees the floor well. He gets to the free throw line. I don't see any scenario in which this team is going to be run and gun, hit the paint, and spray the ball out. I would be thrilled if I don't have to hear spray 10 times after every Kings game this year from Mike Brown, because I get they had to do what they needed to do at the end of the season because of injuries, but that's not sustainable, touching the paint and throwing the ball out. It's not going to work. So if you go back to more of a structured offense, I think that is going to make the big difference, even if you are small, because as you got deeper and closer to the playoffs, deeper into the season, and then progressed into the playoffs, it becomes about the half-court game. The half-court game becomes everything. In fact, you haven't seen it a ton here in the Olympics so far, but once Team USA gets to the elimination rounds and the medal rounds, the game is going to slow down a little bit. It's going to become more of a half-court game offensively. And that is where I worry about Team USA. And I especially worry about them with the half-court game defensively. Now, going back to the Kings have the ability on paper right now to be able to work the shot clock down, to be able to get good shots and slow the game down and execute in the half court, which is something last year, if you had to put a letter grade on it, on how the Kings executed in the half court offensively, I'm giving them a D. I'm giving them a D. There were too many times that the ball just swung around the perimeter, swung around. And it's a three. The shot clock's running down. Think about New Orleans. How many times against New Orleans did we see that happen? So that should not be the case anymore, even with what they have on the court now. So they got to find that balance of using their speed, but being intentional. They've got to be intentional. So you guys are getting your jokes in, loving it. Losing Barnes' defense, it's going to hurt us. Well, I don't know if it's so much his defense. I think, he played 82 games last season. Harrison was somebody, whether he was producing or not, you could rely on him. He was always available. His best, and they always say your best ability is availability. That is where, if you didn't have DeMar DeRozan coming in, right? If you didn't have DeMar DeRozan, I would be really worried about that because of the amount of games that you saw missed last year from some of the key guys on this team. Now, Sabonis, he brings it every game. Guy does not miss very many games, so pencil him in, knock on wood. He is tough, and that sets a tone in the locker room, right? There's a standard now in the locker room that you got to bump a bruise, you better play through it. You don't think Harrison Barnes dealt with some of those things during the season? Absolutely, he did. But he took care of his body, and DeMar DeRozan does the same. But Harrison, just the stability of knowing that that position was going to be covered. You knew Harrison, maybe he didn't have the best abilities, but you knew what he was going to bring every night. So to a point, yes, his defense, but I really hope that DeMar DeRozan is able to offset that to a degree. Remember, last season he played 79 games, played a career high 37.8 minutes. So my guess is, even though he is headed into, he'll be 35 when the season starts, my guess is you are going to see a lot of similarities between the two, both of their work ethics, both of just their professionality, and then also their presence, their accountability. Now, Harrison was more of a quiet guy, but he led by example. DeMar, I think, is going to set a standard in that locker room. And I think there's going to be a different level of accountability. And I talked about this earlier this week on the Kings court. It was not there last year. You know, it feels like there's a little more oversight over some of these young leaders. Do you want to call them young leaders? Or do you want to, what's a better way to characterize this with De'Aaron Fox? Would you call De'Aaron a young learner? Or would you call De'Aaron, that's a good, you know what? Let me think about that. I want to make sure I phrase that correctly. And then I'll weigh it to all of you in a second. CDT Dog hopping back in. Still, I will make the DeMar trade, the making the Kings offense being more diverse in the half court mid-range. Last year was all 3-pointers. Yeah, it's not just that. You know, it also goes back to Kevin Huerter. Now, if you are Kevin Huerter, if I am Kevin Huerter and DeMar DeRozan gets signed to this team, I am ecstatic because you're probably going to get a lot more looks similar to what you got in 22-23. There's more room to get open and get to your spots because you got a couple of guys now that can run that DHO. So I think that's really important. So what I was going to ask, do you think De'Aaron Fox is a young leader or an inexperienced leader? Young leader or inexperienced leader? Because the Kings haven't been to that place yet. I know DeMar DeRozan has not won a championship, but he has been around the league. He has been coached by some of the best in the NBA. Greg Popovich. DeMar is well-traveled, well-seasoned. Right now he's down playing in the Drew League, hanging in LA, doing his thing. So I feel like there was nobody in that locker room last year. And obviously there wasn't when De'Aaron Fox had 16 days of not talking to the media. 16 days. To me, with DeMar DeRozan in the locker room now, I'm pretty sure around day 3 or day 4, DeMar DeRozan's going to pull De'Aaron aside and say, hey, come on, what's going on? Let's hash it out. There wasn't that guy in the locker room last year. And maybe that's part of what the Kings are missing. Remember, it's a natural progression that they are on. They are exactly where they should be. And I will maintain right now, as I have all offseason, last year was not a step back. If anything, it was a lateral step. It was a step. There were areas, small areas of regression, but overall, no, there wasn't a big step back. In fact, I got pretty passionate about it the other day. A lot of the issues, to me, were completely self-induced. The Kings were the Kings' own worst enemies. Adam, I think Fox is a true leader or wants to be the leader of this team when times are tough. He gets more focused on getting back at the other team than galvanizing his squad, in my opinion. Could see that take. I totally see that. You know, De'Aaron, the talking with the refs, I was not thrilled with how that went last year. And, you know, I can get past if you're going to hash everything out with the refs and you got something to say after every single call, let it be. Whatever. It is what it is. But here's the problem that I had. Here's the problem. The problem I have is the refs took up too much real estate in De'Aaron's head last year. You could see it. He would get flustered with a couple of calls, and then you'd have a bad turnover. Then you'd have something that did not work well. Or think about the second play-in game against the Pelicans. It was damn near sealed at the end of the third quarter with three, well, I was going to say boneheaded, but very low basketball IQ plays by De'Aaron after he thought that he didn't get a good call. So, hey, Ryan, you said Sudan don't have a forward that fits the Kings. What about Majak Dang? He has quick forward defense and won't take shots from the Kings' core four or even bench players. Johnny, to be honest with you, haven't seen enough of him. Are you talking? I believe he's number 10, Johnny. I don't know enough about him. I would have to watch more. But again, there's a reason he's probably not signed to an NBA team at this point. But I'll check it out. Happy to do my homework. CD Dog talking about Debo. Speaking of the 49ers, y'all, what are the Niners going to do? When do you expect this Trent Williams thing to get resolved? I wanted to get to that here in a second. And I also want to talk about a report that is talking about NFL. By the way, we are 24 hours away from the Hall of Fame game. The first time we get football back in 2024. Looking forward to that. Adam's hopping back in about Fox. So I also told you, let's talk about this really quick. I'm going to play the audio for you. This was from a Tennessee Titans radio station, Jeffrey Simmons. So one of the Titans players gets into it or is asked to come sit down for an interview with one of the radio hosts and check out what happens. Let me know what you think about this. He had to issue an apology today because of this incident. Here you go.
Yeah, Jeff, you want to sit down? We can talk whenever you want to talk. Jeff, we'll deal with that later. Roger McCreary sitting down with us here on 104.5 The Zone. Jeff, I mean, we're on the air right now. I'm right here, Jeff. We can talk anytime you want to. Unbelievable.
We got to make that happen.
Well, we'll deal with that later on. Roger McCreary sitting down with us here on 104.5 The Zone. Jeff, if you want to sit down and talk about this, we can talk about this. I'm talking to you right here. Jeff, we tried to talk to you last week. I'm being rude to Roger. We'll deal with you later. Roger, what's going on?
It's good. You're doing good out here. I'm doing good.
How was the day of practice? First padded practice. Well, Jeff, you want to?
Could you make out anything of what Jeff called the radio host? Called him he dropped a P-bomb on him a couple times. So apparently the radio host had been critical of Simmons, his play. He had put a couple things on social media. That does not necessarily clear the way for him to go like that. In fact, that is a little bit Kevin Durant-ish. Now, I know Kevin hasn't always clapped back like that under his official name, but Kevin's got about 4 or 5 different burners where he has been very quick to have some harsh things, as recently as just the other day with Keyshawn Johnson on one of Fox's morning shows. These guys got to be really careful there about what you do. And you got to remember, like, you got to be able to take a little bit of criticism. Where did that line change? Like, I ask all of you, where did that line change? I thought Grant did a damn good job of that during his career. And that went into some of the conversations that we've had this week on the 8 o'clock shows about different players and different executives with the Kings that did not take kindly to some of the things that Grant was saying or some of the conversations going on the radio show. And Grant was in a unique position because he's paid by the team. So he works for the Kings, but he also works for the radio station and he works for the fans. So I always thought Grant's line was really good. The question he would always ask himself about whether it was something he should talk about or not was, would a normal person had seen this? So if it's something that happened in practice and the media is in practice and it's an open practice, then other people would have seen it. So, okay, we can talk about it. If it's something on the team plane, if it's something behind the scenes that was not open to the rest of the media, no, you don't touch it. You don't talk about it. And so now players are getting so damn bent out of shape. And to be doing that on live radio, and even the host, did you notice how the host said, hey, we're live on the radio? You know what that's doing, right? He's literally trying to throw the guy a bone and saying, shut up. I'm telling you, we're live. Everybody in Tennessee can hear this right now. Shut up. Do it when we're off the air. But no, dude just kept going. So he has issued an apology for some of those bombs that he dropped. In fact, let's bring in our man, Corn Dog, right now. Corn Dog, welcome into the show. I'm going to talk for a second so I can get some water.
Whew! Man. Dude. Team USA today. Women's volleyball versus Serbia. What a battle. Oh my. That had me so stressed out. That was, that was already a championship bout in preliminary groups, man. These groups are crazy, man. Like, we literally have medalists from the last 2 Olympics all in the same group. China, us, and Serbia.
It's the group of death. There's always one every year in the Olympics.
France is totally screwed. France, the home team, somehow has the group of death.
Go figure. Well, hey, France didn't end up with the USA in basketball, so they got lucky there.
Yeah. They also avoided Serbia, too. That would have been another tough one for them. But, yeah, and that volleyball match had me, like, people saw, like, my supervisor's like, dude, you're hooked on this. You're not putting that phone down. I already know.
So give us like a 30-second summary on what happened and
well,
why it was so
first
good.
2 sets, we got off to a great start. We won the first 2. Then they won the 3rd set. Then the 4th set, they really kind of killed, and it was looking like, oh, we're about to blow this. And then it comes all the way down. We're tied 14 in the 5th set. We were up 14-11. They hit 3 more points. So it's tied at 14. And then it gets tied at 15. Like, we had like 6 match points. It's like, are we going to finish this deal? Oh, we barely got it. We barely did. But man, that was a must win too, because if we would have went 0-2 versus China and Serbia, and we would have had to either been the 7th or 8th seed coming out of groups, and then we'd either had to play one of them again or already in the quarterfinal.
Listen to you, dude. You are dialed in. You blew us away last night. Grant's like, what have you been watching in the Olympics? This guy recited damn near every sport that's been played.
Yeah, I watched the Air Pistols after I watched some basketball 3-on-3.
All right, so I'm going to take up for you, because you're talking about group play. You're talking about what would have happened if they lost or won. Adam is saying you might not necessarily be following the volleyball, but it sounds like you're following the volleyball.
You know what? It's pro and pro, not pro and con. There's beautiful women and the sport's exciting.
There you go. There you go. I actually prefer the beach volleyball. I think that's interesting. I think there's more of an opportunity there to see some of those really cool digs where they're diving, and because it's not as hard of a surface. Sand's a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
And they've got to cover more ground. You know what I am impressed with, though? Have you watched, well, obviously you did, everybody else listening or watching, have you watched people that serve in the Olympics, in the form, the way they jump up and how high they throw the volleyball? It's incredible.
Yeah, no,
it's
can
freaking
jump,
incredible the way they can contort their body and how they can be that accurate. Really cool stuff.
Well, we had so much trouble stopping Tiana Bosnikov, the one of the players on Serbia. She had almost anything. Like they tried, even if it was a bad play, they did whatever they could to get her a chance to spike it on us, and it was working. Plummer just wasn't getting it going. Honestly, if it wasn't for Avery Skinner and Jordan Thompson, this would have been a choke job, 100%. Those were the only two that could get anything going.
Holy crap, man. You know your volleyball. I'm impressed.
I got hooked, man. I got hooked
Damn.
on it.
All
It is
right.
a great sport to watch.
All right. You know, Chase Budinger, ex-NBA player, is playing some beach volleyball for the USA.
Yeah,
That's
I've
pretty
watched,
cool.
I watched a couple beat. Yeah, and then actually I saw early this morning the women's quads in the rowing. Netherlands was leading the whole way. Great Britain was very close, and at the last the last second possible, Great Britain pulls out. Like the exact last second.
They just pull out, get it going. By the way,
the announcers, like anyone watched that replay, the announcers were so stunned that they didn't even know who got third.
So by the way, the medal count, Team USA leads overall with 30. However, they only have 5 gold medals. France has 26 with 8 gold medals. China 19 overall, and they lead the Olympics with 9 gold medals. Corn dog. Which events have the Chinese won gold in? Let's see how many you can name.
Air pistol. The 10-meter away is one that they won it in. Man, I'm trying to remember. I haven't watched all the gymnastics stuff, so I might be missing some stuff here. I know they won a men's freestyle in the swimming. Man, I'm trying to think here.
I'm looking. You're doing good. Keep it going, brother.
Dang, no. Guatemala won the women's trap. Britain won the men's trap.
You know what? I got an idea. If you continue this through the rest of the Olympics, like if you show this kind of dedication, I might have to start like a GoFundMe page to send you to the LA Summer Olympics.
Yes. Yes.
Like I'm just saying, like you know your stuff. Adam's like, all right, you've convinced me. I
will put all my vacation time for July 2028. July to August 2028. I will.
You might not come home, my man.
I will use it all for the Olympics.
Yeah, that'll be interesting when it's in our own backyard. We'll see what they do because the LA River, that's not exactly the cleanest body of water. They're probably going to have to use the ocean.
Oh, man, I bet you there's so many dead bodies in the French River from the Revolution.
Yeah. Sea-Dog, golf begins on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the track stuff, too.
Track's going to be the big thing. Looking forward to that.
Tracks, they always save that for last because that's usually the most easiest for people to get into. And it doesn't take as long, obviously. Races are very quick for the most part, obviously. And, I'm not talking about, like long distance, but a lot of the races are, quick sprints.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it because some of those people, they're running multiple sprinting events. So like the 200, 400,
4x4, 4x1s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They can be on the same
days.
days.
You're running, multiple things. I know France women's won the fencing. Oh, no, they got second. It was Italy who won that one. Italy's got a lot of second places because they also finished second in the pistol and in the women's trap.
Dude, are you even working? Good for you, man. I love it.
Hey, you know what? One benefit of streaming service is all the replays. Having the replays on demand.
Yeah, it's a good point.
If you want to argue, like if you're ever in a debate between, if you're like, oh, I hate streaming service, I'm going back, like cable was better. Having all these replays and stuff very beneficial with how Olympics works, you know, because way different time zones, like not just, you know, like with us with, you know, we only have like what, 4 different time zones that are 3 hours apart. You know, we're talking 8, 10, 12 hours apart for a lot of these.
Yeah, well, we're going through that right now with the NBA and TBS, and there's certain restrictions that are different for the NBA and NFL when it comes to replays, but regardless of streaming. But that's going to be an interesting thing. That's not slowing down anytime soon between Amazon, the NBA, and Turner. So
yeah.
All right, my brother. Well, I'm going to let you get back to your Olympics, dude.
Yeah, I got a couple. There was a couple. I'm trying to rewatch this the BMX that I missed, and I'm trying to catch some more 3-on-3 basketball.
Okay, so have you watched some 3-on-3 basketball?
I did. I saw the Poland match with versus France.
Okay, what's your take on it?
You know what? It's pretty fast paced. There's a lot. There's not a lot of slowdown. You know, it looks a lot more like your pickup stuff. You know, your pickup games, kind of. You know, 3 guys, just half court, kind of, you know, not as many, you know, like dribble handoffs and, you know, pick and roll stuff like you see in a 5-on-5 more, you know, because it's also a condensed space as well. And then then every time someone scores it, you know, they take it back out and they can maybe sneak some, you know, free points in if someone's lagging real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. You know, I haven't seen really 3-on-3 that competitive. I mean, I caught a little bit of the Big 3 League when it first started. Ice Cube's Big 3 League, but that just never took off.
Well, you're being kinder than I am. I think that it hurts the sport of basketball to have the 3-on-3 in the Olympics, or at least Olympics wise, it hurts the Olympics. It's like putting a camera on Hoop It Up, dude, from back in the day. It's not good basketball.
Yeah, it is.
No
it is
flow.
more, you know, kind of, you know, get a couple of guys and hoop around kind of thing.
It should not be in the Olympics. Ice wants to do his thing. Let him do his league. They've had some success. You know, I know the WNBA is starting a league, but it doesn't belong in the Olympics. Keep it 5-on-5.
Yeah, but I think they're just looking for, you know, more thing because, you know, once when you go, well, let's add that because, you know, track has 100 events. Swimming has 100 events. Hell, they had to separate swimming and synchronized swimming.
But you don't. What's next then? A dunk contest, a 3-point contest.
I mean, we are heading towards flag football too.
You know, like, yeah. So it's another conversation for another.
Still waiting for forklift driving.
Forklift driving. Yeah, we'll get you into the trials, my man. Hey, thanks for the call, Corn Dog.
Olympic gold, everybody. Let's go, USA.
Dude. You brought it, brother. I like it. You brought it well. C-Dog, you know my opinion. I included you in a little post. For those that did not catch the Hard Knocks off-season edition with the New York Giants, I found it super enjoyable. And some of it was very predictable. If you've watched any of the other NFL shows behind the scenes where you get to follow the front office around, follow the coaching staff around. But I thought they gave you a little more access into some of the conversations via other teams. So Joe Sheen, the GM of the Giants, you know, his conversations with other GMs, I thought that the fact that they gave you access to those, you heard how deals kind of were made out. You got to see firsthand some of the interactions between the agents and the front office. That all to me, that was worth the watch. So the other thing that was really cool was to see the amount of people. And you hear that teams have scouts. You hear that, you know, usually on any given football weekend during the fall, you've got numerous pro scouts at any big time college football game. But these teams have groups of scouts. And one of the things that was most surprising was how much Sea-Dog, I don't know if weight's the right word, but sometimes you think like if it's the GM's the call. He's making all the calls, right? He's the final decision. And certainly ownership is above him. But the fact that Joe Sheen really took a lot of feedback from his team and worked really closely with his head coach. And so that's why we always talk about, and we kind of got into this with the Pete D'Alessandro conversation the other night, but you've got to have a coach and a GM that are on the same page. And Dable and Sheen seem to be pretty well on the same page and have a good, cohesive working relationship. So the fact that you saw that in real time, or at least real time when it was shot, I really enjoyed it. Good watch if you guys haven't seen it. Hard Knocks does a great job with their production value, definitely. So Corn Dog, we need you on Friday. Why do we need Corn Dog on Friday? Now we're getting wild. Yeah, we got Alex, our MMA guy, Adam, our WWE guy, CT Dog. Yankee, the Phils still disappointed about their trade deadline and don't know if they make it out of the AL. Yeah, they're at a race at the top. Dude, tell me why your man's wearing purple with that beautiful Yankee gray and blue. What's going on with that? Can somebody explain it to me? Sea-Dog couldn't explain it. Napes couldn't explain it. George Steinbrenner will be rolling over in his grave with a Yankee in purple. So, hey, make sure y'all come back tonight at 8 o'clock. Grant and I are going to be back together. We'll be doing a full breakdown today. A ton more story to get to. Obviously, if you didn't hear the show last night, it is not always straight sports. We get into some nuance. Certainly, I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit more about the Olympics and Team USA. If you missed my opening take, Derek White, thus far, the MVP of Team USA. He is doing all the little things that had he not been on that team, they probably wouldn't have had another utility player that team greatly needs to be a gold medal team. And yeah, they probably could have won the gold without him. But again, he's doing all the little stuff. And you can tell Steve Kerr has a ton of trust in him. By the way, keep an eye on Drew Holiday's ankle. He rolled that. We'll see if that's going to affect his play at all. And then also, Joel Embiid did not play today. Not a big surprise. South Sudan plays a lot more on the perimeter. They are not a big team, so expect him to get some run in Team USA's next game. But they are 2-0 in their group play in the Olympics. I'm going to talk to Grant tonight about the announcers. I asked at the top of the show what you guys thought about Noah Eagle and Dwayne Wade. I've got to think this one through. I'm kind of in the middle here because Noah Eagle, I didn't have a huge problem with. I get that you need to have chemistry between the two. And if we learned anything from this last year in the NBA Finals, not having Mark Jackson, not having Jeff Van Gundy, and having a little bit of that candor, that back and forth, that fun, that joking, it can hurt the broadcast. It can be really dry. It cannot be, there's not a lot of charisma. You saw that with JJ, Doris Burke, and Mike Breen, and that was not Mike Breen's problem. He's the color guy. He's calling the game. But that being said, Dwayne Wade, it's a little too casual for me. I thought it was a lot too casual for me. So we'll talk about that a little bit more here on the other side, but make sure you come back 8 o'clock tonight. Grant and I will, dealing still with the cough. That was bad. We're going to wrap it up. Somebody please do not go back and get that. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Make it a great one. We will see you at 8 o'clock tonight. Grant and I will be back. Thanks for making it through the dog days of summer with us here on the Kings Court. I can't wait for the basketball season to get closer. We are going to get back down to what we do best, and that is Sacramento Kings basketball. You know it.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Go Kings, light the damn beam. Stay the hell away from Levine. We'll see you at 8 o'clock tonight. Grant night, open forum. Make sure you join us then. So long. Court is dismissed.